Hi, everyone. I am Josselyn Segura. I am a bilingual child and adolescent therapist at Kenneth Young. And I will be talking about what anxiety is today and kind of giving you guys coping skills and maybe walking through some coping skills. And then if you have questions along the way, please feel free to put them in the chat or just kind of ask out loud if it's a moment of like quietness, I guess. So we'll go ahead and get started. I'm gonna go ahead and look at my slides over here. Sorry, give me a second. I lost everyone. Where can I go back here? Okay, so let's start off with some facts. So according to the Anxiety and Depression American Association, anxiety disorders affect 31.9% of adolescents between the ages of 13 and 18 years old. It's been said that when we leave anxiety untreated, it puts teenagers at a higher risk to perform poorly in school. Along with that, maybe teenagers struggle with like those social experiences, and that could be with maintaining relationships, friendships, and even developing them. Also, when it's untreated, it can lead to engaging in substance abuse. And another fact is that women are twice more likely to be diagnosed with generalized anxiety. And social anxiety is equally common in both male students and female students, and it typically begins around the age of 13. And along with other anxiety disorders, there's like OCD, PTSD. It says it's also more likely for women to develop it. Any questions regarding the facts? Okay, all right, so we'll go ahead and move on. What is anxiety? Anxiety is an intense feeling of being afraid, nervous, tense, or worried that is too strong for the situation and goes on for too long and gets in the way of a normal life. Also with anxiety, anxiety is very normal. It can happen to anyone. It can be, an everyday thing where we worry about, oh, I lost my keys, I'm running late to work. And we get those nervous jitters when we have appointments or presentations to go to. And it's very normal. However, with anxiety, when it comes to being diagnosed, it's when it's now interfering with work, with school, with social life. That's when we kind of make that diagnoses and say, okay, this is something more severe that needs to be paid attention to. Sorry.
Nomás somos 7.
All right. Now to talk about the symptoms of anxiety. So kind of what I was saying, right? Anxiety is normal and we all kind of experience it. So occasionally we might feel nervous or we might feel like we can't concentrate. So it's one of those things, right, to the severity of it. So common symptoms of anxiety is feeling nervous or restless, having a sense of impending danger, panic, or doom, increased heart rate, hyperventilating, sweating, trembling, or shaking, feeling weak or tired, trouble concentrating or focusing, difficulty sleeping, feeling sick, nauseous, or having stomach aches. Now, like I said, some of these symptoms can be associated with other things too, as well, of like just day-to-day things, but also sometimes we do experience like those medical issues, and sometimes we do have trouble sleeping, or because we're ill or we're kind of dealing with other things in our life, we could be having difficulty like focusing. We could feel tired and stuff like that. All right, so moving on. So some signs of anxiety. In certain situations, we kind of think, oh, well, I'm acting this way because I'm really, really stressed out and I am gonna, avoid work today. However, with anxiety, avoiding our trigger, so whether it's work or school, right, it kind of creates an impairment in that area of life. So, for example, a behavior is like avoiding the place or the situation. It's clinging to safe people or a safe environment and refusing to leave that person or environment. We can have outbursts of like feared situations. Having or having like angry outbursts when we leave a safe place or a safe person. Some thoughts could be thinking that every situation or every object or everything is very dangerous. We could have excessive worrying that bad things are going to happen. And this could be like, on my way to school, I think, that a dog's going to bite me, or, that I'm going to get to school and someone is going to like shout out my name and it's going to bring the attention to me. It's just constant thinking and worrying about a lot of things happening at once. And then the last one is like kind of imagining those bad things happening. All right, any questions before I move on to the causes of anxiety? Okay, all right, so we'll move on. Causes of anxiety. So many things can cause anxiety. So like I said, it could be day-to-day things, or it could be, that we are going through a hard time in our life at the moment. But some of these causes for that severe anxiety could be past childhood experiences, such as physical or emotional abuse, neglect, loss of a loved one, or being bullied or being socially excluded. Recent life events, so such as stress, abrupt changes, pressure with school or work, loss of a loved one, feeling lonely or isolated, and being abused, bullied, or harassed. Other things that cause anxiety could be physical or mental health. So, for example, living with an ongoing life-threatening medical illness can trigger anxiety, and co-occurring mental health disorders. So one thing with anxiety, a lot of the symptoms can truly overlap with other mental health disorders, so such as depression, ADHD, or PTSD, and with other disorders as well. And for example, with like depression, one of the symptoms is maybe like isolating. And so, maybe someone is isolating, but it's not necessarily due to the anxiety, but it could also be because at the time they're dealing with some depression as well. So that's kind of an example of how two mental health can be co-occurring. All right, so we'll kind of get into the types of anxiety. So there are multiple types. I will not be going through all of them because it would take us a long time to get through them. But we will go ahead and divulge into some that are very common within our teenage population. All right, so the first one is generalized anxiety disorder. And generalized anxiety disorder is persistent and excessive worry about a number of different things, such as health, friends, school, family, or other issues. Some of those symptoms are really related to the ones that we mentioned earlier, but so some of them are like feeling nervous, irritable, or on edge, sense of impending danger or panic, increased heart rate, hyperventilating, sweating and or trembling, feeling weak or tired, difficulty concentrating, trouble with sleep routine, or nausea, dizziness, or stomach aches. With generalized anxiety, I always like to tell my clients and my parents, just because we feel like we have all these symptoms, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's diagnosable, right? It's kind of like going back to what I was saying earlier, that sometimes these symptoms are felt every day. So it would take that persistent and excessive worry about a different things every day for over a large period of time. All right. The next one is panic. All right, so panic attacks or panic disorder is an abrupt onset of intense fear or discomfort that reaches a peak within minutes. And yes, panic attacks can occur unexpectedly. For instance, I recently was working with a client, and we were in the middle of session, and they experienced a very abrupt panic attack. And when identifying triggers, it was hard for them to identify it, and they kind of questioned it, like, can that happen very abruptly? And yes, it can. And we kind of dig deep into like maybe what their day looked like that could have brought on this panic attack. And when we do that, we use different types of treatment to kind of get to finding that trigger, but it can be very abrupt. And sometimes you could be sitting down and feeling relaxed, watching a movie, and then you have that sudden like feeling of overwhelming fear, and you can go into a panic attack. Some of those symptoms are palpitations, pounding heart, sweating, trembling and shaking, shortness of breath, feelings of choking, nausea, feeling dizzy, lightheadedness. You can feel chills. You can feel numbing and tingling in the limbs, so with your hands, feet. Sometimes I've heard clients tell me that they feel like their whole body go numb. That can happen as well. Sometimes dissociation, derealization, and depersonalization can happen. The fear of losing control, or quote unquote going crazy, and fear of dying. Then we have social anxiety, and kind of working with teenagers and adolescents and younger children as well. Social anxiety is definitely a really common disorder that I see a lot. And this is usually something that I see with those children and adolescents who attend school. So this is, like I said, very common. And social anxiety is an intense anxiety or fear of being judged negatively, negatively evaluated or rejected in a social or performance situation. Activities that you might find difficult can be like talking in groups, starting conversations, public speaking, meeting new people, eating or drinking in front of others, speaking on the phone, going out in public, or large crowds. You can also add like going to school, participating in group presentations. This could be working with a partner in gym. It could include a lot of those activities. Social anxiety may affect your everyday life. So like your self-confidence and self-esteem. You may feel extremely isolated. You may struggle to maintain or develop those relationships, and may interfere with academics, work, or everyday tasks. All right, any questions so far? Okay, perfect. We can keep going. So let's move on. So then we have phobia. Phobia is experiencing excessive and unreasonable fears in the presence of or in anticipation of a specific object, place, or situation. And some of those specific phobias can include animals such as dogs, insects, snakes, or rodents, and of course, many other animals. And then we have natural environment, so heights, waters, darkness, storms, or germs. We can have situational ones like flying, tunnels, small spaces, or escalators. And then we have the body-based ones, where blood, vomit, injections, choking, or medical procedures are involved. We're going to move on to treatments for anxiety, and then we will kind of continue to then finding out those healthy coping skills. All right, so our first one is psychotherapy. So this one is also known as talk therapy. This was very common with our adolescents. This one usually a therapist and a client will talk through their through like emotions and process those feelings, and kind of asking questions to kind of get to where an adolescent feels that they have maybe acknowledged something, or they've identified something that's triggered them. And so it's a lot of talking involved. Then we have CBT. With CBT, it examines your thoughts, feelings, and behaviors and how they affect each other. So something like that would look like a lot of, for example, we have this thing called thought reframes, and it's a sheet where it kind of says or asks, how did your thought make you feel? And how did your thought made you act out? And then we kind of connect to those three, and we help then the adolescent or individual to then say, how can we reframe this thought maybe into like a positive one? And usually they can reframe it, make those connections, and it's a skill that they can apply into their everyday life. Then we have DBT, and just like CBT, it focuses on your thoughts, feelings, and behaviors. However, this one, it was modified to help individuals who feel emotions very intensely. So an example could be something along the lines of using the wheel of emotion, which could also be used with CBT as well. However, I have seen it, or I have used it more with those DBT skills. And then we practice more of that mindfulness piece that comes along with the emotions that we're feeling at the moment. Let's see, there's a chat question. When do you know you should seek out help for anxiety? Great question, Jillian. So when would you know? So I would say that with anxiety, it's kind of, once again, the severity of it. So if anxiety, if let's say your child or yourself, if you're feeling very anxious every single day to where it's like affecting or interfering with your job or school, I would then consider like seeking that therapy, or seeking your doctor and asking those questions of like, my symptoms are, X, Y, and Z. I feel like I can't go to work because I'm always anxious, or I'm experiencing these symptoms. So I kind of would say that anytime where you feel like you're no longer able to like complete homework or complete your work, or you're really struggling with like focusing, and you're noticing a decline in your motivation, and finding those things that keep you motivated, I definitely think that's when seeking those services would be appropriate. You can do it beforehand if you're noticing that it's starting to get to that point. And therapy all around to just kind of have that talk therapy, or if you just feel the need that you have to talk to someone, I think it's a great time at any point to really seek help for an anxiety. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you very much.
Yes. So Sorry about that. So I will continue with exposure therapy. So exposure therapy, so I did put here that it's used for phobias or OCD. However, exposure therapy is used for many other mental health disorders. Here where I work at Kenneth Young, it is mainly used with our mentoring, which is that following bullet point. And really what mentoring and how mentoring and exposure therapy work is we have a mentor who goes out into the community and works with the client, and they do it in real life. So for example, let's say a client struggles with placing orders at McDonald's. Our mentors then take the client to McDonald's, and together they work on that exposure piece where the client will have to then order, a sandwich from McDonald's or a drink, whatever the case may be, but it starts at small steps. So for example, with exposure therapy, what I usually see is we will start with like the least anxiety provoking symptoms. So for example, let's say someone is scared of ordering that food at McDonald's. So the first step we would take is like sitting at the parking lot at McDonald's, and then gradually moving on to like something that triggers them like massively, where like their anxiety is like a 10 out of 10. But we work through it gradually. And like I said, with mentoring, which is a following bullet point, we do that here at Kenneth Young, and that's where they mainly use that exposure therapy. And then we have group therapy. Group therapy just kind of, it's a large setting. So it's groups of like 5 to 8 kids, depending on where you have your group therapy. It could be larger groups than that. But they do a kind of combination of a lot of treatment. So they could do psychotherapy where they just talk. They could do CBT where they kind of focus on those thoughts, feelings, and emotions. And then, or behavior, sorry. And then, or they could do DBT. So they could do a lot of treatments within that group therapy. And then we have self-help books. There's many that, many individuals who like them, and there's many people who don't, and it's kind of at a preference of what you like and don't like. And then we have medications. So medications have been known to help along with therapy. So together combined, they can help a client become very successful in managing their symptoms. However, with medication, I will recommend to speak to your doctor or to seek a psychiatric evaluation in order to kind of, if you're considering that medication. And also kind of, now that we're talking about medication, one thing that I always like to bring to parents' attention, or just to, adolescents themselves, is when we think of medication, sometimes we're like, oh, maybe I can self-medicate. And this is where that we always say like that is the unhealthy treatment or an unhealthy way to coping with those anxiety symptoms. So self-medicating, sometimes people may use like marijuana, or they can use alcohol, and that, those are not really healthy ways of coping. And we always say, let's find medications that work and that can be controlled by and monitored by a doctor. Okay. Any questions about the treatment types? Okay. And this is the fun part. We're going to get to the coping skills. All right. So healthy coping skills. So there's a lot, and there's a lot here that we're going to go over. But I actually want to engage with everyone and see what are some coping skills that you guys use just on a day-to-day basis that you're like, I didn't even know that this was a coping skill. So if you just want to like throw them in the chat or unmute yourself, you're more than welcome to. Pet my dog. Yeah, that's a good one. Pets are amazing. Yeah, pets are like you can cuddle with them and they can, just feel like you're hugging someone or your pet's hugging you. And it's definitely a great feeling and it's definitely a coping skill. My dog, my dog gives me anxiety. Oh no, Debbie, I am so sorry. Well, hopefully we can talk about some coping skills that you can use here um to help you maybe with that anxiety that your dog provokes you. Going for a walk, nice, that's a good one. Is there a waiting list for counseling at Kenneth Young? At the moment, we have for English speaking clients, there is a short wait list. I believe it's like a few weeks out to a month. And then for the bilingual wait list, I believe there is a little bit of a longer wait. I think that's like anywhere between a month to 3 months. That's where it was about like a month or two ago. So I'm assuming that that's where it's still at right now, but definitely for the English speaking clients who don't require like that translation piece, and it's a shorter wait. So I see going for a walk. Yeah, that's a good one. Um, Talking. I like to make lists to get things out on my mind on paper. Yeah, that's also a good one. That's a really good one too. All right, so let's kind of take a look at these. So taking a break. So asking for 5 minutes when anxious. So I love to use this one for my clients who struggle a lot with a lot of anxiety at school or with tests or with presentations or just in general, they struggle with a lot of anxiety in class. Something like this can look like, for example, the client going up to the teacher saying, I need 5 minutes to take a deep breath, to refocus myself because I'm very anxious. And I just need to walk up and down the hallway for like a few minutes. It doesn't have to be 5, it could just be a few minutes. And taking a break from kind of peers and like everything going around us can really help just calm our nerves and then kind of rejoin when we're ready. Going for a walk, someone here said going for a walk, definitely going for a walk outside. That is wonderful, especially when the weather's really nice, and just taking in that fresh breath of air or pointing out like the trees and nature and birds and stuff like that. It distracts our mind from those things that are making us anxious. So anything that kind of is outside, it's wonderful, and going for a walk is definitely one of those good ones. Listening to positive music can definitely improve your mood. So what I will say about music is kind of working with the adolescent crowd. I hear a lot like, oh, well, I like to listen to sad music. And sometimes I say, well, listening to sad music might keep us sad, but let's try listening to positive music. And once they hear positive music and they're like just up and moving and the energy is coming on and they feel more relaxed, more happy. So definitely listening to positive music or calming music can definitely help reduce your anxiety. Counting down from 100 can keep your mind busy. Once again, it's, going from 100, 99, 98, 97. It keeps you busy and thinking of other things rather than thinking like, oh, I'm feeling very anxious right now. Using humor. Definitely, I love laughing. Laughing is a great one. I have clients who tell me dad jokes all the time. So I'm going to give you guys a joke, and it may or may not be funny, but it can help with anxiety. So what do you call a cow with no legs?
Lean beef.
Oh, that's a good answer. I'll give someone else another chance. That's not the response. That's not the answer. All right. Okay, so it's actually called ground beef. That one always gets me. I love it. Or there's the one where it's like, what do you call an alligator that investigates? An investigator. That's also a good one. I get a lot of, like I said, dad jokes, and it makes session so much fun, and it definitely helps reducing that anxiety. Then we move on to positive self-talk. Reframing negative thoughts helps stay positive. So for example, let's say you're having a rough day and you're like, oh my gosh, I messed up so badly today. Well, when you think of it, maybe for you made a mistake. However, what's a positive that comes out of, something that we did, right? So for example, I guess I can use an example of myself. Occasionally I will like drop my phone, or I'll drop my laptop, my work laptop, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I am so clumsy, I can never do anything right. Well, that's not true. I can. I just, unfortunately, maybe something slipped up and, it fell, and that's perfectly fine. But I don't always mess things up. And what I usually like to tell myself is, today you're just having a rough day, but things will get better. And once I use that, it's like an affirmation, I start feeling better, and I start seeing things in a different light, I guess you can say. Then we have journaling. Definitely journaling is really good because it can help you track your symptoms to identify what is triggering you. And it can also help your therapist kind of to help you process what's triggering you and process those feelings that are happening. Or you can keep it to yourself and you can write down how you feel, and it helps you regulate your emotions. Journaling is one of the biggest coping skills that I use with my teenagers. And the reason being is because sometimes they maybe are not ready to talk about what's going on, or maybe they're just not ready to share with anyone. So I have this I kind of modify it based on my teenagers, but another thing that you can be done is telling your kids, you can write a letter about whoever made you mad or the situation that was upsetting, and like it's upsetting you, and they can write down how they're feeling on a letter, and they can fold it, put it away, or they can give it to the person, or they can throw it out. They can do whatever. What it does, it just helps you release or put away some of those feelings. All right, so the next one is reading a book. Definitely when you're really busy and really anxious and there's a lot that you're thinking about, reading a book can definitely help. Watching TV, a TV show or movie, talking to your support system, friends, family, favorite teachers, or therapist. Arts and crafts, they can help you calm down and be a form of meditation and soothe those anxious symptoms. All right, so let's keep going. All right, we have deep breathing. Deep breathing helps increase oxygen in your brain, which then helps you calm down. An example is box breathing, and we will be working on one of those activities shortly, so we will come back to that one. Grounding techniques, it can help you focus on the present moment to distract yourself from anxious feelings. An example is called 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and we will also be doing a short activity with that one. And then we have aromatherapy. Who doesn't love nice smells? That one can definitely help with soothing you. Quality sleep. Science recommends teenagers between 13 and 18 should sleep between 8 to 10 hours. Having a healthy diet, certain foods can help boost neurotransmitters, which help with calming anxiety. We also have progressive muscle relaxation, which is tensing and relaxing muscles throughout the body, can help you relax. Imagery, think of a place you find comforting and use your 5 senses. So for example, like, what do you see? What do you hear? What are you tasting? What can you feel? What does your comfort place smell like? And then coping skills can be objects, people, or hobbies that make you happy. Any questions about coping skills? Okay, we can move on. So moving when here, okay, so in one of these videos, I'm gonna play it and then I'm gonna give you a chance to practice it with me, okay? So we're gonna go ahead and start with the first video. Oh, I apologize. Okay, my videos don't want to play. Katie, would you be able to help me? I'm not sure how to. Okay, so
You might have to get out of the presentation.
okay, give me a second.
And then click the link. Yeah, or right click it.
Yeah, it's not working. I'm not sure what's going on. It was working yesterday. Okay. It's okay. I will continue to guide the activity. I apologize about that. Okay, so box breathing. So when we do deep breathing, I always like to tell my clients, whether adult or adolescent, to sit back on a chair or in a couch where comfortable, as long as you're comfortable and you're sitting down, that's what we recommend. Then with box breathing, we think of a box. So think of a box in front of you and there's 4 sides, right? So we're going to start at the top of the box, and at the top of the box, we're going to inhale for 4. So we're going to inhale. So we're going to do, and then we're going to hold it for 4, and it's going down the box. And then we count 4, and then we exhale. And then we hold for 4, and then we start again at the top of the box. And we do that multiple times. So 4, 4, 4. And when we do deep breathing, we want to do it from your stomach and not just from your chest. So we want to take that deep breath in. And that is box breathing, and that can help with coping with your anxiety. And then we have the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 is 5 things that you can see. So for example, that could be 5 things that I see around me. It could be my phone, my laptop, my charger, my keys, my bottle of water, and my badge. Then we have 4 things that you can feel. I can feel my rings, I can feel my computer, I can feel my chair, and I can feel the floor. 3 things that you can hear. I can hear the fan on the computer, I can hear white noise machines, and I can hear a clock in my office. 2 things that you can smell. That could be aromatherapy, it could be any essential oil, or that could just be fresh air that when you're outside. And then 1 thing that you can taste. Right now I can only taste water that I drink. So that's kind of how we practice those. So for the last one, for the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, I'm going to encourage you to put, and everyone can put something in the chat, to find 1 thing that you can see around your room or wherever you're sitting. Okay, I encourage everyone to find something or feel around you and see something that you like the feeling of, whether that's your clothes or your chair or your couch. And then something that you can hear. What can you hear around you? Okay. So what is something that you can smell? And then what is something that you can taste? All right. So yeah, so these are some of those coping skills that we tend to use in sessions. So let's go ahead and move on to the unhealthy coping skills. So some unhealthy coping skills is sleeping too much or not sleeping enough, over or under eating, substance use, avoiding issues or emotions, isolating from family or friends, or a very popular one that I recently noticed among my adolescents is doom scrolling. So doom scrolling is like social media where you go on and on social media, and sometimes some videos or posts can bring up very difficult emotions. Another thing with doom scrolling, it could also mean like that you're Googling some of the symptoms, right? So when we go on Google and like, I feel this way, it actually creates more anxiety. So doom scrolling is definitely one of the bigger unhealthy coping skills that I see a lot in my adolescents. All right, and then I have some resources for you guys. And so for support, we have 3 different crisis lines or hotlines that you can reach out to. You can reach out to the crisis care line, and the crisis care line, as you see on the screen, you can take a picture or a screenshot of the slide in case you want to use it for future references. They are available Monday through Friday, and Monday through Thursday, it's from 8 a.m. to 2 a.m. and then Friday from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. We have the crisis text line, and you text hello to that 741-741, or we have the Illinois warm line. And you can call the 866-359-7953. And then in the event of a mental health crisis or a safety concern, you are welcome to call the CARES line, and you can arrange a SAS evaluation. So someone may come out to evaluate you or your adolescent to your home, or let's say you decide to go to the hospital will help you call, or they will call for you, and you will get a SAS evaluation at the hospital. And then we also have call or text the 988. It's a 24-hour suicide and crisis lifeline. And also you're more than welcome to reach out to Kenneth Young if you're interested in services. And for that, I apologize, I didn't get a chance to put the number on here, but I can definitely put it in the chat if you guys would like. So give me a second, let me do that for you. This is a main line once again. When you call, you can request either to just have an evaluation done, or you can request for Spanish speaking if you are Spanish speaking. And there's other therapists too that can help with like translation in other languages as well.